Did you know that this old myth that the customer is always right is actually sabotaging your organizational mental health and how your employees are experiencing your culture? And here's why. The whole customer is always right myth came from an old way of doing business, came from selling specific products, selling services, and this era is over. We have a very different era of buyers and shoppers, and it looks very, very different than it has historically. So, over time, this message that the buyer is all right has become more of an expectation that employees should tolerate any behavior the customer brings their way. So, you can see how this correlates directly with the employee not feeling valued because the customer is always right. And unfortunately, this means the modern service economy depends heavily on that emotional labor, making the employee well-being a business asset and not just an afterthought. So there is a hidden cost when we prioritize our customers over our employees, and it might not be obvious to you. But this is also why, for me personally, I went into business was that I could choose the customers I chose to work with, that I want to work with, that align with my values as a leader and my company's values as a culture. And that's why we're very picky about who we work with, because of course we want to serve our customers, our clients, but equally, I want my employees to feel valued, to feel seen and heard, to know that their work matters and it's valuable. So the hidden cost comes in when our employees notice that leadership consistently sides with customers at the expense of them and their staff. It's somehow become expected to remain cheerful while absorbing hostility. If you ever have been a waitress or a waiter, you understand what this is like. You're meant to be optimistic and cheerful even when people are saying demeaning or hurtful or hateful things and they're sending it your way. And that's not realistic. You're possibly also seeing constantly suppressed frustration, and this can lead to staff disengagement, resentment, and of course, burnout. Also, lower retention, leaving, absenteeism, and just mental and physical exhaustion, and your health may be declining as well. You might see your employees more sick and less excited to perform. See, the thing is that psychological safety disappears when our team members feel completely unsupported during difficult times, challenging seasons, and economic strife, which we are seeing today. And every time an employee's dignity is sacrificed for our customer satisfaction, the trust in leadership erodes or completely disappears. And you may have heard this mantra or this saying that people stay for their boss, they stay for the people, they don't just stay for the money. So if you're doing a poor job as a leader and you're not creating the correct values-based culture for your team, you are likely going to have people leave your team. Now, let's also talk about how toxic customers can hurt your profitability more than they help. This is something really important. Not all customers are good customers. I mentioned early on in the episode that we only choose to work with customers who are aligned to our mission, our vision, and our values. We want people who are abundance in thinking, people who are action takers, people who respect and value our boundaries as a company for my employees, for myself, and for our vision and mission. If there's a misalignment, that's going to be a nightmare customer, and it is not worth my time, my money, and certainly not my employees' bandwidth. So we have standard operating procedures in place to notify us when we have people like this so we can fire customers that aren't aligned. Also, high maintenance clients often consume a disproportionate amount of time, energy, and resources. You know that feeling as an owner. Your intuition said, don't say yes to this client, but you needed the money, so you said yes. And they become exhausting. They impact your bottom line. They impact your staff. They are a nightmare to work with. They're not worth the money. Please listen to that inner voice. Please listen to your intuition. They are not worth your time, and it can damage your team and your culture detrimentally. Teams become also less productive when they are constantly managing unreasonable demands. As it is, your team, especially for small business owners, is probably already really busy. When you have a high demand and unappreciative customer, this affects morale, and it makes it very difficult for your team to perform sufficiently and hit their numbers, which of course will make them frustrated because they won't hit their KPIs for their bonuses. So we don't want that. Your employee turnover will also increase when toxic behavior is tolerated. This makes sense because they can't hit their goals, they feel exhausted, they're not respected, they're not appreciated, and they're dealing with a toxic culture and environment when you allow that to occur. And the cost of replacing that talent often exceeds the revenue that was generated by these difficult customers. So think about that in the back of your head next time your intuition is saying, no, don't say yes to this person. Listen to it. Your gut, your intuition is always right. And then last, a culture that's based and built on fear ultimately damages service quality for your great customers. And one bad lemon, even if it's a customer, can ruin it for everyone involved. And it has a dramatic negative ripple effect on your employees, your other clients, your quality of service, and your bottom line. It's not worth it, I promise you. So let's pivot just a little bit. Let's talk about what employee first leadership actually looks like. What if instead you undid this myth and you created a new metric, a new model, and a new values-based system for your employees? Well, employee-based leadership is not anti-customer. In fact, it creates healthier outcomes for everyone because your employees feel supported, they feel empowered, and they're more invested in the future of the company because they are supported and empowered. Leaders can act as a buffer between staff and abusive behavior in this kind of model because they're empowered to escalate issues with difficult customers where leadership can get involved. That way, it's not the staff's problem anymore. It's the leader's problem to resolve. Clear policies can also help employees know that they will be supported when boundaries are crossed. It's really important that we communicate clearly our expectations for our employees, for our customers, and our boundaries as well. There need to be consequences, and everyone should be clear on what those are. Teach teams professional de-escalation techniques and communication scripts. This is really valuable so that they feel empowered with supportive tools, supportive scripts, and the ability to escalate when they feel that they cannot handle the situation. Having these tools and processes in place empowers and keeps your team invested. It also allows you to establish clear criteria for when a client relationship should end and how you can offboard that client. We call that the breakup process for us. It's not something that happens very often, but when it does, it protects our employees and it sends a strong message about our organizational values. Some example boundary scripts would be, I need to keep this conversation respectful. Or if we can't continue this discussion professionally, we'll need to pause this conversation. Or it seems like we're no longer a fit for your needs, and we'd be happy to recommend some alternative solutions. That's something you should empower your staff with in their back pocket when things go awry with clients. And that's not to say this happens very often, but when it does, it's certainly good to have these in place so that your team feels empowered and they know how to handle these scenarios and they don't feel disrespected. It will keep their loyalty forever. So let's talk about why boundaries, healthy boundaries, create better performance and stronger growth. Organizations who have strong cultures often outperform those that are slowly driven by customer appeasement. Why? Once again, employees are more aligned to the culture, they're more invested in the success of the company, and they feel respected and supported, so they're more likely to stay and they're more likely to actually be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Employees are also more innovative when they feel safe in sharing their ideas, and they're more able and capable to take risks so that they can fail fast and learn from that and innovate and grow. And that's, of course, what we want within our team cultures is growth, innovation, and support. Teams stay longer when they feel respected and protected, and especially when they have that psychological safety for taking risks, for expressing their opinion, for sharing their ideas. If they don't feel safe, they're not going to share their superpower abilities and how capable they are in their zone of genius. Create a safe container and you'll see how your team excels. Healthy culture becomes a competitive advantage in attracting top talent. If your employees are sharing how amazing it is to work for you and your customers are doing the same, of course, more people want to work for you. You're going to have a competitive advantage in attracting amazing people who are aligned to be part of your employee base. Customers who align with your values tend to be more loyal and more profitable. When they align with your values, they're in it, they're partnering with you as an organization. And of course, they're paying you for their services, but oftentimes our clients become collaboration partners. We might even be part of their company as a shareholder in the future. They refer us business and they become friends for life, even when they're not working with us anymore. That's the value of value alignment when it comes to the work you do in your business, whether it's a referral partner, collaboration partner, a client, anyone who's touching your business. Sustainable growth comes from balancing customer care with employee well-being. That is where the magic happens. Customer care, employee well-being, bring them together on the Venn diagram, and my goodness, there is magic. And when you have this employee first culture, they're going to create an amazing customer experience as well. So if you've been facing this customer is always right myth and you're going about it the wrong way, or you're experiencing high turnover, or you're noticing that you have a lot of clients that you're breaking up with because they're high maintenance, they're not the right fit, I want you to reconsider how you're building your culture, how you're deciding who you want to work with, and how you can turn that ship around to improve this so that your employees stay with you and your employees are empowered to create that amazing customer experience. A few closing thoughts for you here. The future of leadership isn't just about treating customers as kings or queens. No, it's about creating partnerships that are built on mutual respect and mutual growth with a long-term compass that you're headed in the same direction. That's where the secret sauce really is. When you protect your people are better equipped to serve your customers, and they're better equipped to be innovative and do a better job than you could even think of yourself. The strongest organizations refuse to choose between profit and culture. They build both in a way that's completely aligned with their legacy, their mission, their vision, and their values. And that's powerful. Those are the companies that outpace and excel. Those are the companies that continue to be successful even during economic difficult times or when we have political polarization. Those are the companies you should pay attention to and that you should model your culture off of, but based on your mission, your vision, your values, and your legacy. With that, I want to share the companies winning the future won't be the ones that sacrifice their employees to keep their customers happy. No, they'll be the ones that build cultures where people do their best work because they feel valued, protected, and supported. And that's where innovation stems from. That's where the magic comes from. If you're ready to create a high-performing culture that drives both profit and people first in leadership, I would love to connect to see what possibilities are there for your organization today. Reply to this episode, reach out to our team. We would love to do a session with you on how we can help you excel. We call it our Changemaker strategy session. They're complimentary for all of our listeners and all of the change makers like you out there who are ready to level up and have a bigger impact. I want to remind you it's about people first always, but it needs to be people first based on values alignment. Not every person out there is for you, or not every person out there is with you. Some of them are in a completely different place, and it's water and oil. And we don't want to have that impacting you, your people, and your customer experience. You're worth it. You're magic. You've got this.